Some people join the BSU because they wanna explore blackness. Some of these kids are black kids who've grown up in the middle of Connecticut and have never had any black friends, and don't really understand what it means to be black. And then we don't purport to know the answer to that, but we do want to provide a space to have conversation. Some people join because they want to take an active hand in community building and helping shape what happens at Williams and programming and such. And some people refuse to join because they don't think that we should exist. And I think there's some valid points to be made. Some people say, oh, well, it'll just create fractures in the community, or well, this group shouldn't exist because what purpose does it serve? And I would respond simply by saying that for those people who utilize it, it is necessary. It provides a space. It's a space where you can be. Should it be your only space? No. And I would tell that to any freshman, any sophomore, any junior, any senior who does nothing but spend their time at Rice House. You need to go make some friends out in the community. Rice House is a community that's part of a small community that's part of, not Rice House, the BSU, sorry, is a small community that's part of a larger community. And that's mostly what we do, is try to remind people that, we're not exclusive. Anybody can come to Rice House at any time. We welcome everybody because we want to hear all perspectives. And we just want to see more faces in Rice House. We open that space up so that people can use them. But even with that being said, our primary goal is to make sure that the black community is taken care of. And in the past, and this is a big reason why a lot of people, at least from our year and the year below us, don't join the BSU or haven't joined the BSU. In the past, leadership was very fracturing to the community, mostly because there were some race politics that were being played that weren't productive for the group. And that's part of the reason why it's difficult to disclaim arguments of how we shouldn't exist because we're derisive to the campus, divisive rather, to the campus. I think it's important for black students when they get on campus to take at least one for two reasons. One, I think it's good support for the program itself, which I think should be here, because it's not just black kids that take these classes. A lot of kids from many different backgrounds end up taking these classes and concentrating in Africana studies. It's interesting stuff. So I think we should all take at least one. And then also, I think a lot of kids come here and have learned a very specific narrative, and it gives you a chance to step away from that narrative, from the European-centric narrative, or rather from the Anglo-centric narrative, and see perhaps what other people are saying about you, or about people who look like you, people who are from the same places you're from. Do I think every black person needs to concentrate in Africana studies? Absolutely not. But I think it's good to take at least one. If my kid goes to a school, certainly wouldn't make it a requirement, but I'd say, hey, you might want to take for lack of a better term, a black people studies class. Learn a little bit more about yourself than what you were taught in high school, because now's the chance to do it.
At some level, there's a lot of ignorance at Williams. In the sense that, for example, I think a lot of students at Williams who come from upper class backgrounds or wealthy backgrounds don't really understand the plight of those who come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, especially when it comes to education. I was having a interesting conversation with some of my friends, and I just think that at a certain extent, there's just a lot of ignorance when you have a lot of people who come from very different places coming to the same thing. In the same sense that I would think that more lower class students wouldn't understand the extravagance that upper class students would live in. I remember distinctly, I went to hang out with one of my friends, and he had, I'm trying to think, it was like a beach club, and it was pretty nice. And I was taken aback a little bit by being in that sort of situation, because I didn't even it didn't occur to me that things could be that nice. And so, in that sense, I think there's a lot of ignorance on both sides, and it's kind of sad on the one side where people don't really understand the difficulties that students from those socioeconomic backgrounds face. And so that makes it that much harder for them to integrate to Williams in a privileged place if they come from a place that is not privileged.
My viewpoint, I hesitate to say this because it might be a little put people on edge, but I might as well be honest. I actually think that some of the minority groups here are a little divisive. I'm Hispanic, and sometimes I feel like I'm not brown enough to go to BSU or go to Vista, or, you know, I feel weird because I don't dance salsa. I don't like to dance. I hate dancing. I mean, I'm Cuban, sure, but I grew up listening to Pink Floyd, Beatles, and Fleetwood Mac. And my mom's Cuban, but her favorite singer is Carly Simon. You know, like, we don't all necessarily have to eat the same food and love to dance salsa and talk Spanish all the time. So in some ways, I think it's important to have a safe space for minorities to get together. I think it's wonderful that, you know, Vista has all these events. Like, I love when they had Hispanic Night in Mission. You know, I love that you have a community that you can go back to. You know, if you want to speak Spanish, you can go to Spanish Table. If you want to dance salsa, and that's a big thing in your community back home, that's great. Same thing goes for the BSU, but I do think at times some of the conversations that some of these people have amongst themselves can be a little divisive, and it excludes other people, such as the, you know, the dominant white student who comes here, and I don't like that, because I think being Hispanic or being black or being a minority is a lot more than, you know, doing X, Y, and Z. I think, you know, every individual is nuanced and can't be categorized by Hispanic, black, etc. And it would just be nice to see those groups become a little more inclusive. I just would like to see more interaction between, you know, the BSU, Vista, and white members. I don't know, I'm not putting any blame on the BSU or Vista or on the white students on campus or the international students. I think it's naturally difficult. It's a small place. We come from many different backgrounds, and naturally it's going to be awkward, it's going to be difficult, and there are going to be problems, but I think that's something that these groups should think about, how to become more inclusive and how to really reach out to the people that they really should reach out to other than their own, which is I think the white community, you know, how to get them interested in Latino studies or Africana studies. It would be nice to go inside an Africana studies class and see more white people in there. You know, after being here for 3 years, I think I realized that I think the minority groups are really the ones who need to work on those issues more, because there are just a lot of negative things that I've heard. I don't want to repeat them because, well, they're negative, but I mean, you can imagine, there's a lot of like white stereotypes about like the male athlete, or even like the white female blonde at Williams, and I just don't like it, and I think that bias and mentality towards the white and, you know, affluent community, which is not necessarily all affluent and is not necessarily, you know, that homogenous. I mean, there are many white students here who are first generation, who have different backgrounds, German, French, some are Italian, they're just as diverse, and I think that needs to be emphasized, that diversity is not just a bunch of Latinos and black people in a room. It's Latinos, blacks, Indians, Chinese, Koreans, white people in a room. That's diversity, and that's what I would like to see, not an emphasis on, you know, this aggressive minority movement. I think it needs to be more inclusive. Yeah.
I didn't even know I identified as a minority until I came here. I feel like there's still no concentration on mixed people and where we fit in and who we can go to, because in the end, neither group is really going to accept you. So we still have, you know, so there's MINCO, I guess, but, and I've never been to a meeting, so I can't say whether it's successful or not. But in general, I feel like part of the reason I was last freshman year was because I was mixed. So I'd like to see a broader range of taking care of people from any type of background that makes them underrepresented, I guess.
I would say I've learned how to network and market myself. I've learned how to run organizations. I've learned when to let things go, you know, which battles to fight, which battles aren't worth it. And I would say perhaps the biggest skill I've learned is to be able to efficiently but effectively as well, because I think those are two different things. Efficiently and effectively finish a task, whatever that task is, in the allotted amount of time, without having a nervous breakdown. Because I think this happens to every Williams student. You get, you know, a finals period where it's just, you're like, how in the world am I going to finish this? This is just not even fair. But you do it because you have to, and it teaches you that you can do whatever, you can handle whatever anybody throws at you.
My parents say all the time, I don't know how to relax anymore. When I come home from break, I literally, like, maybe for 2 days, I'll relax, and then after 2 days, it's like, all right, I start getting anxious and antsy. I'm like, I need to be doing something productive. I can't just sit around all day and watch TV. I feel like I need to do something, like, let's go build a fort or something. I don't know, I just need to do something. But I think that's because the pace of Williams, like, between your classwork and whatever other organization that you know, put yourself into, gets you in a kind of like routine of like, I'm going to attack this, and this, and this. So when you go home, you feel like, all right, now, you know, you feel prepared for, in a sense, not the real world, but you feel like you can tackle other things besides just sitting in the house.